Happy Tuesday, y'all. What a glorious, beautiful day it is. And the ones that's in the South that experienced the Easter snap last night, I hope your plants and your fruit trees and everything did okay. I worked hard yesterday trying to cover everything, shift things back into the greenhouse, you know, anticipating worse temps than what we actually got. At 6:30, we were at 34 degrees. Now, I do believe we did dip down to 32 between 3 and 4. But at 6:30, we were at 34 degrees. It's 12:20 in the afternoon. We are in the low 60s. And everything really looks good on my end. I pulled some vegetables back out, just a little bit outside the greenhouse, because that's where I actually had them yesterday. So I'm kind of getting a visual behind the camera on the patio, and everything looks good. So I said, today is the day that I choose for us to do a lot of cooking. Well, 2 recipes. Freezer friendly, Mr. Buddy's lunch friendly, quick supper friendly, and then of course I'm just going to cook our supper with you guys. So we're going to spend about an hour, 45 minutes to an hour in video time. For me, it's going to be quite a few hours, but that's okay. I didn't want to divide the 2 recipes. I just really wanted y'all to join me in the kitchen to see exactly what I do. And it's not usually just supper or just this. I'm trying to multitask and prepare freezer snacks, lunches, and so forth. So on today's menu, it is meat pies. They're actually known to be called Natchitoches meat pies. It's Natchitoches, Louisiana is where the origin of these meat pies came into play. Now we're going to do semi-traditional. I do crawfish, I do shrimp, but today the star of the show is going to be ground pork. Now let me say, you can use ground meat. You can do half beef, half pork. You can do ground chicken. So your ground meat is really to your choice, or your seafood. Today we're strictly doing ground pork meat pies. Very, very easy to do. On the menu today is shrimp fettuccine. You're thinking, well, that's easy. Y'all, you remember that Boursin cheese that we did enchiladas with? I did another recipe or 2 with it. Well, I had purchased some more 2 weeks ago, anticipating on trying it in shrimp fettuccine. And I got the herbs, and I believe it was herbs and chives is the one I got. I can't see where we can go wrong, but we're going to try it. I bought it anticipating on doing something with it, and then on my way home I was like, well, why can't we do a fettuccine? Well, I happen to have a pound of shrimp, so shrimp fettuccine is on the menu. So we're going to have meat pies, shrimp fettuccine. You can omit the shrimp, do chicken, you can do crawfish. It's really up to you. So without further ado, we got to get our pie crust made for the meat pies. Now, you can buy pre-made pie crust in the box, roll them out good. You'll get about 6 pies, because they look like fried pies, guys. You're going to get about 6, and I'm guesstimating, to each sheet. So you'll yield 12 pies in a box of the pie crust. I think it's 2 rolls to a box. But today, we're actually going to make our own pie crust, and it's the first thing we got to do on the menu, because the pie crust has got to chill a minimum of an hour. Then we're going to move to making our filling for the meat pies, because that as well has to completely cool and drain before we assemble them. Now, we won't be frying these, we're going to be baking these. So we're going to stay a little bit more on the healthy side, which, to be honest, I've tried to fry them. They're pas bon. That means they no good. Bacon's the way to go. So I'm going to turn the camera. I do have my mixer out, my KitchenAid, so we can, not my KitchenAid, my food processor. I'm looking at the KitchenAid in the camera back there. And that's what I'm going to use for my pie crust. But you can You know, use any machine or your hands, whatever you want. And the recipe is really stupid simple. So let's get our pie crust made first. In my food processor, I have 2 1/4 cups all-purpose flour, a teaspoon of sugar, and if you're using unsalted butter, then I would add half a teaspoon of salt. I'm using salted butter, so I'm not gonna add any salt to this. So it's 2 1/4 cup all-purpose flour and a teaspoon of sugar. I think I told y'all a tablespoon, but a teaspoon of sugar. And I'm just gonna get this blended up because all I did was dump it in there. Okay, it's mixed fine. Now, I've got 2 sticks of salted butter that I have diced very fine, and I've had it in the ice box. I am going to add these 2 sticks of diced butter. Okay, we're gonna give it a good pulse to get all of this mixed. It looks like little grains of salt throughout, little specks, so we're good there. Okay, now this is where you've got to judge on your own. It's gonna be 6 to 7 tablespoons of cold water, but you'll be able to tell by how it comes together. You don't wanna overmix it. So I automatically know I'm gonna do 6 tablespoons. Let's see where we're at. Oh yeah, I can pinch it together. We are perfect. Now you're gonna think it's very crumbly, and it's supposed to be there. Now I'm gonna get all this dumped out without wearing some flour on me. And all I'm gonna do, now I'm sure there's 1,000 ways to Sunday to do pie crust. My little mat's a little bit small, but I am basically just gonna mash it together. I don't wanna overwork it because I'll do that once it chills. Okay, I'm gonna choose right down the middle. Perfect. That was perfect, guys. Okay, now I'm gonna flatten it out. And you're thinking you should have added more water. No, because as this butter starts to melt with my warm hands, it will come together even more. All right, we've got one wrapped, and now I can start flattening it with the saran wrap. And it doesn't have to be perfect, because like I said, we've got to work this in a little while. See how easy it is to work with the saran wrap on? Okay, into the refrigerator a minimum of an hour. Well, that was a tongue twister. Now we're gonna get our filling made for our meat pies. I've got my stove eye sitting on about a number 8. I wanna get my pot a little hot on the bottom so we can add our 2 pounds of ground pork. Now this is unseasoned, it's just ground pork. We got some sizzle going. I'm gonna use my Cajun seasoning swamp mix. You can use any brand that you like. And this is where we're gonna start seasoning our meat. And remember, you season to taste. Okay, we're gonna get this browning up. And that's the only season I'm gonna use at this point. It's starting to brown really good. Now there isn't a lot of fat in this. If you were using ground meat or a fattier meat, you would definitely want to drain it very well. Okay. Now, I'm going to opt for white pepper. You can use black, but I'm going to use white pepper. And if I had to measure, about a half a teaspoon. I'm going to add a little bit more swamp mix because I can tell by the smell. Now, if you notice, I am not adding salt. That's because I will be using celery salt. If you were going to use celery seed, which when we get to that, I'll give you the option. you would add salt. But because I'm using celery salt in this, I will not be adding extra salt. But you can. It all depends on what your palate is. And I know I'm smoking you guys out, but I've got to get a good browning on this meat. And you see, I am steadily stirring. That's because I want it fine. You're going to want your meat very fine. Now I've got a large diced sweet yellow onion, and I have a cup of bell pepper. Now you can use green, you can use mixed. I like to buy the bag of small bells, and I just chop them up. But we're not going to use the cup in the cup, because remember, we're making fettuccine. So I'm going to add about half of this cup of onions and about half of the bells. There we go. Now I'm going to use the celery salt. Not quite a teaspoon, and the salt that's in it's going to pull some moisture out for those vegetables. And what we want to do at this point is start softening these vegetables. I'm going to turn it down to probably a number 4 now, and we want these to get very soft. 3 to 5 minutes. Okay, if you had fresh green onions, you would add them after the vegetables soften. I'm actually using dehydrated green onions, so I'm going to add a good teaspoon and a half so they can go ahead and, I call it puffing up, but they can rehydrate themselves. It's about a teaspoon and a half. Looking at the clock, we've been sauteing about 3 minutes. And this is where you're going to have to make your judgment call. You can go a little bit longer for your vegetables. Or like me, I still like that little bit of bite, because remember, they're going to keep cooking as this mixture cools down. That residual heat is going to continuously soften them. Okay, 2 heaping tablespoons of minced garlic. There again, if it's too much garlic, omit. But I like a lot of garlic in these meat pies. This is optional. This is a teaspoon of red pepper flakes, or you can use more, or you can use less. Now I'm going to eyeball the Worcestershire, and I am going to say tablespoon. That's going to give it great, great flavor. We have a cup of beef broth. Now this is the beef base, but you're going to need a cup of beef broth. Now what we want to do, drop it to a simmer between a 3 and a 4, and we just want this to cook and simmer 15 to 20 minutes. Because what we're doing, and I'm keeping the lid off, I want to evaporate the liquid. So 15 to 20 minutes. We're just going to let this cook, and I'm going to stir it here and there. But we got one more step once we get this liquid to evaporate. Okay, I want to show you. Most all the liquid has cooked out. We've got just a little in here, and that's what you want. Now we're going to go in with about 1/4 of a cup of all-purpose flour. Now I'm going to put my eye back to a 4, and we want to cook this flour in here for about a minute. Look how it's tightening up, guys. But you definitely want to give it a good minute on cooking, because we want to get that flour taste out. And then any residual liquid, it'll go ahead and come on out. Because we want it moist but we don't want it sopping in juice. Now I am adding it to a colander just to ensure that if there's any liquid, it will go ahead and drain out, because remember, this has to completely cool before we make our pies. And what I'm gonna do is just kind of push it around the sides so it's not all clumped up. It'll help cool it down and allow any moisture to go ahead and come on out. Just like that. Set it off to the side. Our meat pie filling has been cooling about an hour and a half. And let me show you. We have very little bit of drippings. That's why I like to use the pork. We've got a little flour on our surface, and I am going to start rolling out our pie crust. And I've only pulled out one disc at a time, and it's very firm. It's been in the fridge hour and a half, hour and 45 minutes. And it's going to take a little bit to get it going because it is very, very cold. I've got it rolled out fairly thin, and it doesn't have to be perfect because we're not making it into a pie. We're just spreading it out, the dough, to start making our individual pie crust. I'm just using a ramekin. You can use any size you want, but I like this size, and I'm just gonna score it because I will use the residual pie crust, flatten it out, and get as many as we can. That's why I said it doesn't have to be perfect. There we go. So this gives us 4 of our pies, if I can get it out. And that's the size I like. And you see how thin? So I'm gonna line them up over here. Now I'm just gonna gather up my pie crust, shape it into a ball. This is hard on my hands today. I worked them hard yesterday. Okay, got a little bit of flour. We're just gonna roll this out. We've got all of our discs made. I ended up making 14. So I've got them sitting over here on some wax paper. And this is where I originally stacked them. It's got a little bit of flour. We're gonna cook these in batches, but you gotta preheat your oven to 425. I'm not sure if I told y'all earlier, but we're gonna be cooking these on 425 Fahrenheit, about 10 minutes. And I do have an egg wash here, and all this is a beaten egg with a tablespoon of water, because we will be doing an egg wash because it glistens. It gives it a golden color. And this is optional. You do not have to use cheese. But I do have a pound of grated pepper jack. I won't be using all of this because I'm also going to use this in our fettuccine. So I'm multitasking right now. But we're going to go ahead, drop the camera. We're going to get a few of them made up and get them in the oven. I've transferred our filling to the bowl. If I don't use all of it, I will freeze it. And you don't want much. Just a little bit. And like I said, you can make these larger, smaller. That looks about right. Oop, I forgot my cheese, and I just told y'all I was going to use some cheese. Not much. And I am heavy-handed with my filling. I know I shouldn't be. Let's see. I'm left-handed, guys, so I'm going to turn it towards the camera. And I am just going to flip this pie over and crimp it down. I'm going to have to turn it this way, guys. Sorry. And I am just going to crimp it with a fork. because you don't want that goodness coming out. You know, just like if you're making any fried pie, and it doesn't have to be perfect. So I'm gonna set that one over here. We're gonna do another one. Not as much filling this time. Let me show you. I had quite a bit of the stuffing mix. So I'm gonna set that into the ice box, and tomorrow I'll either make more Louisiana meat pies, or I've got some cabbage I'm gonna shred and I'll add the cabbage to this. I've got some egg roll wraps and I'll do egg rolls with it. I mean, you could even use this as your base. Add some peas and carrots, top it with mashed potatoes, and you got a shepherd's pie. Numerous things you can do with that filling. But now we got to get these egg washed and get the first batch in the oven. And I've got 5 sitting over to the side that I'll bake when these get done. And they don't have to be perfect, guys. Oh, yeah. 10 to 12 minutes in a preheated 425 degree oven. I've got the last batch of meat pies in the oven. Y'all, I want to dive into them so bad, but I know they're scorching hot. But now we got to get our pasta dish going. It is 425. You know, we eat by 6. So I'm going to keep an eye on these, but we got to get some vegetables sauteing. This is easy peasy, but like I said, we're going to twist it up and add some Boursin. And this is the garlic and herbs. I thought it was herbs and chives. So we're going to be adding that to it. Now, I did cook my pasta. I cooked them about 7 minutes. I am actually using penne. We don't care for the fettuccine, the long noodles, but that's what fettuccine is supposed to be. But we always exchange for penne. I drained them, reserved a cup of pasta water, and I put a little bit of olive oil on these just to keep them to stay separated. So, you're going down in the pot. Wait a minute, let me check. Oh, we're good. Yes, I'm using the same pot that I did the meat pie mixture in. I washed it. Wasn't no sense in just piling up a bunch of dirty dishes. Now, I've got my stove on about a number 6. This is a half a stick of salted butter that I will be melting. It's starting to melt, so I'm going to drizzle a little bit of olive oil in here. We're going to get this thoroughly heated before we add our vegetables. Okay, in goes our half a cup of bells and the other half cup of onions. So you see, I'm using the same ingredients in 2 totally different recipes. Now we're going to get these sauteing. We really want these tender. Now I did not put salt here to help sweat them down. I don't want to pull moisture out with the olive oil and the butter. I am going to turn it down to about a number 4. And I really want these to soften. You're looking at a good 5 to 7 minutes. But there again, it depends on your stovetop temp. We've been sauteing about 3 minutes. And they're starting to get soft, but we have a little ways to go. Okay, we've been going about 5 minutes. I'm going to add a heaping tablespoon of minced garlic. You don't want it to burn. And I'm immediately going in with a pound of shrimp deveined, tails off, and the residual liquid that was in this shrimp, I left it in. That's to help avoid that garlic from burning. Now this is where it goes pretty fast because shrimp takes about 3 minutes. We don't want to overcook these shrimp. Now it's time to season. I'm going to use my Cajun seasoned swamp mix. You season to taste. If I had to guess, a heaping teaspoon. I'm also going to season with my voodoo dust. This is like a house seasoning, but it has the white pepper in it. So if you don't have the voodoo dust, just put some white pepper. So you see, we are staying with basically the same seasonings and vegetables in 2 different dishes. Now, I will not be adding salt because the cheeses that we're using has salt in it. So does my Cajun seasoning. Oh, this is looking fantastic, y'all. See those shrimp? Gorgeous! I didn't have the camera on, and I am so sorry. All I did after we let the shrimp go another minute, I added a cup of pasta water and a cup of half and half. That's all I did. I can't believe I didn't have the camera on. Now, we're sitting on about a number 4, and we want this to simmer a couple of minutes. We don't want to lose all of this liquid. We just want it to simmer. Okay, I am turning it down to a number 2. And now we're going to add our 1 block of Boursin cheese right on in. And the reason why I've dropped my stovetop temp to 2 is because we're going to have to let all of this cook about 15 minutes on a low simmer. You do not want this cheese sticking, so that's why you want it on a very low simmer. Now I'm going to add in my pepper jack cheese. And I think I'm going to add the rest of this. So I would say a good cup. See, it's already done gotten soft from sitting out. I did grate this morning. So about a cup of pepper jack cheese. Now we want to get this cheese melted. And we're going to let this simmer about 15 minutes. And if I feel that it's too thick, when we add the pasta, I've got a little bit more pasta water sitting to the side. It's been about 5 minutes, and I want you to see. And I mean, it's on a barely simmer. It's starting to coat the back of my spoon, so I know that the sauce is thickening up. Now I'm going to add some dried parsley. This is optional, but I love the color that it gives. And some red pepper flakes, just a pinch. There again, optional. You see, I didn't go heavy-handed, but it's going to add just enough warmth. And I am going to add a couple of tablespoons of butter. This is just going to make it silky, smooth. It really does finish this dish off. And with our pound of penne pasta. I tell you what, my hands are clean, but I don't want to just dump it in there and get splattered. Let me get my hands a good wash real quick. And we're just going to basically fold it in. Now, this pasta is going to absorb a lot of this liquid. Plus, when you want to heat it up, you want a little bit of liquid in here. If not, it's going to be dry. Now, at this point, if you wanted to top it with more cheese after we fold in some Parmesan, you could actually top it with more cheese, turn the heat off, put a lid on, 2-3 minutes, and that cheese would melt on top. But you saw I used the rest of mine, and I didn't think about reserving any. Now, I'm out of fresh grated, so we're going to use the shaker, and it's perfectly fine. There again, I don't know how to measure, so I'm going to guesstimate 2 tablespoons. I can smell it, so that was plenty. And then you can top your dish off with more if you want. But like I said, at this point, you could put grated cheese on it, put the lid on, take it off the heat, and the residual heat of the pot will melt that cheese. And just like that, I saw it starting to boil on the side. Lid on, remove from heat. Look at our meat pies, y'all. I can't wait to dive into those. And here's our shrimp pasta. You see what I mean by when you take it off the heat? A lot of that juice is absorbed with that pasta. So you definitely want to keep a little bit of that juice. I just got a sample. I'm talking about a little sample. The pasta's smoking. But the first thing we're going to do is tear into this meat pie. Because I got to wait to eat with Mr. Buddy. But no one knows that I'm going to sample a meat pie. You see what I mean by the size of it? It's perfect. Now, these have cooled, of course. But they heat up so good. Look at that. Look at the inside. Oh my gosh. I don't know which one I want to sample first, but it's going to be this one. There's nothing no better. If you've never had a meat pie, try it. The crust is so flaky. I did not mind working these poor crippled hands today for what I just bit into. It's not too much cheese, just enough to give it that creaminess, you know? Oh my heavens. Y'all, every bite has some filling. So yeah, kind of stuff them like I did. Now it's time to try our pasta. Because had I not put the Boursin cheese, I would have already known what it tastes like. But I'm curious. So let's see. Does it take it to a different level? As in good or bad? Y'all, there's something about that cheese. I'm telling you, it's magic. It's not my normal shrimp and pasta, shrimp fettuccine. It's not. It almost lends it to, well, I don't even have a word, but delicious. Ooh, I like that. Now, if you don't have that cheese, you can make this, without that cheese, just add the pepper jack or, you know, whatever cheese of choice. I personally would stick more with a pepper jack, a good melty cheese, not in a bag. Grate your cheese. This is good. I'm getting that herb. Yeah, because wasn't it garlic and herb? Y'all, this is amazing. It does change the taste. Not a whole lot, but it kind of, it's more bolder, but not in a bad way. I'm going to try the shrimp. I want to see if that shrimp took it on, and that shrimp is tender, tender. The shrimp did. Toast you up some garlic bread. Scoop that juice into a bowl with that pasta and sop that. I'm going to get Mr. Buddy's opinion, but I think he's going to tell me. Next time, add that Boursin cheese. I have no words to describe except try it. This is crazy. Well, I don't have any bread yet cooked because I had this. But I need to sop a little bit of the juice up. So I might as well use a piece of my meat pie. Shut your mouth. I dare you. Yeah, I dared you this time. If you're like me, you don't like to be dared. I got a couple of bites left. I'm going to enjoy them. It's 5 o'clock, y'all. I'm going to have to make my little bowl more skimpy. But I will finish this. Yeah, it's the Boursin cheese. It is decadent. But I am so glad that you took time out of your day and spent it with me here in the kitchen. I've missed you guys in the kitchen. Y'all know it's spring leading into summer for the southern part. And there's just so many hours in a day. I'm trying to do as much as I can out in the greenhouse. You know, the dirt come in, so I'm trying to scoop when we can in between these rain showers. So, you know, in the kitchen's going to be kind of here and there. Also, the boys started ball. Cameron has his game tonight. I'm going Thursday to see both of them. So that way, if I go once a week, depending on if they play at the same ball field, an hour apart, I'll only make a trip to Texas once a week. And that's what I'm hoping for. If not, I'll be gone twice a week. So I think the schedule is going to shift again like it did last year with the ball, to weekends and 1 day a week. And I think that'll work. Unless I'm in the garden and it's like, hey, I got to show my friends this. So, you know, definitely the weekends. That's when we do our garden updates. Mr. Buddy can be in the videos and I can show what he's working on. But in the kitchen, it's going to be one pot meals, not heavy meals. These meat pies are not heavy. This pasta is not heavy. And this gives us a couple of days of suppers. And that's what I like to do, you know, especially with the time of the season that we're in. But I want to thank you so much. I had a blast. I hope you try these recipes. Try the meat pies. Guys, they're crazy good. But this Boursin cheese, if you have it or if you can get it, add it next time. I don't know if I'll ever make it without it. I'm sure I will if I don't have the cheese. But if I can get a hold of the cheese and it's on sale, because it can be $5 a block, guys. I got this for $3.85. But it's worth it. I hope I can keep making it with this cheese and the pepper jack, because the two together, I wouldn't change a thing. So, as always, stay safe, stay well, and God bless. Cheers, and I'll see you on the next one. Yes, cold coffee goes great with pasta.